guys? Ben Travovic here from the Manly Seagulls.
Here comes through Luai.
The SuperCoach Experience podcast is one of the best podcasts going around, boys.
They go, Tahoe!
Keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I just want to say, what a podcast. Go the Mighty Eagles.
Hey lads, Ewan Aiken here from the New Zealand Warriors. Hope you have a big year with the SuperCoach Experience podcast.
He's got the ball to Sims, it's down Tahoe! It's gone in again! What a pass!
And welcome to the SuperCoach Experience. Another round in the books. Big long weekend full of footy, which is what we all love and enjoy. And with me to round it up for this round is the one, the only Mr. Mikey Adard. How are you, Mikey?
Yeah, good to be back, mate. I hope you're doing well, Maxi. And another episode with me and you on again. So I'm ready to get rolling.
Fantastic. M squared back on it. So firstly, how was your round? Give us a bit of a lowdown for those who potentially missed Thursday's pod about what your moves were, captaincy, VCs, and what you're sitting on right now.
Yeah, so I didn't come on the pod this week. I had a really busy week, and actually, I was away at just the mountains this weekend. So I went away for a camping trip, just a bit of a late one for my birthday. So there was no reception there. So I had to really be quite prepared. I was going to miss the Friday and Saturday. So I had to come back with a plan on Sunday. So I kind of had to set my team up in a sense where it wasn't going to screw me. And I kind of had my fingers crossed that they didn't rest Tedesco or Munster. I survived all that unscathed, luckily. But yeah, out of the bye round, I only scored 830 with 11 players. I only dropped 490 spots, so I'm sitting at 2,700 before this round. Fairly happy with that. I managed to save 2 trades instead of using them to get extra numbers. Wanted to come in hard with this week with the trade boost. Made 3 great trades. Looking at it now, I went Snyder to Ezra Mam. That gave me the money to then go Valea to Campbell Graham. And then I used my 4th trade boost of the season to get Suwali up to Mulatalo. So an 80, 105, and a 94. So perfect 3 trades. And the whole point of saving 2 the week before was to get prepared to go 2 of those big centre wings, because there was like 6 centre wings to get this week. And most of them scored well, except for Herbie Farnworth, who got injured. So, and Lomax was pretty underwhelming. But I scored right now live. I'm on 1254, which seems to be, I think I'm going to hold still with that, but I'm not too happy in a sense. I lost 7 leagues. It doesn't help when I had to verse Jake in 3 cashes this week and he beat me by 50. So that really hurt. I know the rest of the other 3 boys had a really good round. So I captained Nico Hines. I was talked out of it. I was not talked out of it, but Sabs and Timmy made me feel I should go safe. I was going to captain Mulatalo. This is it. I'm not captain Nico Hines again. He can go screw himself. 1254. Was pretty happy with that. I couldn't captain Nathan Cleary because before camping, I had to set Ezra Mam as my starting halfback in case I come back with news that Cleary was rested. So, I'm happy. I think the average from all my non-scoring plays was above 65. So I think it's going to be a good round for my team overall just to make a bit of money. And, all of us that held Carraz and Cooler, it looks like their money's going to start ticking over again. So happy days. How'd you go, Maxi?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think it's important to say happy birthday from everyone at the SuperCoach Experience, mate, and hope it was a fantastic trip in the Blue Mountains. I was down there 2 weeks ago and absolutely loved it. Great place. So in terms of SuperCoach, I scored at 1232. So I'm actually, and this is kind of funny and kind of a good lesson for everyone to kick the episode off, is I've actually traded pretty much every week, use max trades, and I'm actually on 1 boost left. And I was going to do the same thing as you and bring in both Campbell Graham and Mulatalo. But because I only had 1 boost and I haven't saved too many trades, I actually didn't go for that one. And it kind of shows you why saving those 1 or 2 trades, if I'd saved a couple of trades, maybe a boost earlier on the season, I definitely would have done that trade boost to Campbell Graham and would have got those points. But I'm happy with my trade so far. I went to Mulatalo. I think he was in for for, I think it was Christian Tuipulotu. So that was fantastic. And he looks like he's going to be semi-priced out of those who haven't gone him. So I was happy with that trade. Also went Ezra Mam in. I completely forgot who I went for him, but I think I went through Jules, someone who kind of peaked. I think it was maybe an Aiken or someone, or Trent Peoples, one of those. I kind of swung through Jules to get him in. So happy with my score. I also captained Nico Hines. I actually VC'd Ruben Garrick, and sitting on his score. I think it was 101 or 106 before updates, and obviously got pushed up to 121. I was considering looping, but again, I had an AE with Burbo, he's 6, and I was slightly uncomfortable with Nico Hines going up against the Warriors. I just thought it was a lock for a 150, 175 plus score, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And I was speaking to someone at lunch, my mate Nick, and I was saying if there was any game in which Nico Hines was going to score, under 60, this was the game when everyone captains him, because it's the same thing that happened 3 weeks ago. So unfortunately, I didn't go the clearing move like all the boys did, and I didn't loop Garrick, but I'm still happy with my score. I'm ranked around 3,000 around you, Mikey, and so I think that that's going to be around par, and that goes into the first question, which is from Daniel Werby, which says, what do you reckon par is, low to mid 1200s? I think 1200 is going to be around par. Everyone in our league scored, I think, above that, but also we've got to, take into account that most of the people in our leagues are your Jakeys, your Sabs, your Tins, who are a top 1,000.
Or ranked very high, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that 1200 will be around par. I think we'll hold. I don't think we'll go down much at all. But that's just the way SuperCoach works. And the thing I'm happy with, and you touched on, is even the non-playing reserves kind of scored well. I held on to Kohler, who was fantastic. I obviously have Karaz, and that just makes it a little bit easier for us to get up to those keepers at the end of the season. And it means things tick along. So I'm quite happy with my side and going into the next round. But a good game of rugby, a good week of rugby more so. Jake's obviously started talking shit with the thanks for 3 wins, Mikey.
Yeah,
well
I chucked it up before. But yeah, I'll get you back for that, mate.
I'm sure you will. And Nathan says Monster Week 1702. I don't know whether he's joking, but Nathan, mate, if you got that, you're an absolutely...
If you got that, you'd think that would be close to the cash, because I'm seeing a lot of high, like just below 1400s. But yeah, going back to before, I think 1200 to 1300, you're doing okay. I think anything over 1300, you'll get a good jump. But yeah, it's just a top scoring round. A lot of the popular players all went really well. So it's hard to get an indication. But yeah, you definitely want to be over 1200 this week just to feel safe. And thanks, Cameron.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Cameron said, happy birthday, lad. And also Nathan, after getting a 1702, just said the Mexican Morgan Harper is back. Personally, I'd take that as a compliment, because I'm a Manly Seagulls fan and Morgan Harper's great, but Mikey doesn't. So we'll move swiftly on. Lots to cover in this episode. We've got, a large amount of games to come through, but also a lot of talking points, which you touched on, Mikey, about the centre wings. You couldn't get them all this week, but maybe you can get a couple that you missed out on this week, and we'll talk about which ones are worth the price, which ones are not. But the first game we'll kick off with was Cowboys and Dragons. Fantastic game of footy, kind of went the way we all expected it to go. The winners for the Cowboys, Drinkwater with a 90, Tamelo with an 89, and Robson with a 78. For the Dragons, you had Moses Sully with an 82 and Ben Hunt with a 73. In terms of the losers, we had Hammer with a 20 and Luke, obviously, who had the injury with a 21. And Dragons, we had Cody Ramsey with a 32, obviously had that disallowed try with the obstruction, and Lomax with a 43. My first question to kind of kick off this review for Mikey is Drinkwater with a 119 and now a 90 in his last 2. He's beginning to look like he's close to a keeper. With Hines underperforming, do you still think he's in that tier below Pappy, Teddy and Hines, or do you think he's starting to creep up into, say, a secondary tier with Nico Hines?
I think it's a very good question. If I had Drinkwater, I'd hold him. If you're like Pappenhausen's getting back, and the biggest talking point is going to be how do you get Pappenhausen? I think with a lot of Nico Hines performances, I could definitely see people doing that move. If I own both Drinkwater and Hines, and I had to say goodbye to one, I'd probably keep Drinkwater. The Cowboys are looking a lot better. Sharks did put a score on the Warriors yesterday, but I thought they looked pretty average for most of that game, and the Warriors have been terrible. Like, as a Sharks fan, I think there's a few concerns to worry about, and I think they're going to put their foot off bit off the pedal like they have and keep it that way. And the Cowboys just keep turning up week by week. We only really seen them struggle against Penrith, so I think I'd want to hold Drinkwater. The 14% ownership, and they're just flying high, and I'm pretty sure I've got them open now. They've got a really nice run. Their draw looks pretty good. They've got to play Penrith again, and then other than that, the top teams that they have to verse is Bunnies, Roosters, and then the Broncos. Other than that, like, they've got a period where they go Tigers, Dragons, Bulldogs. Like, that's a really nice run to finish, and that could be very handled come finals time for SuperCoach.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's a hold, and for people like Timmy who brought him in, I mean, it's a absolutely fantastic trade, especially in a week. And this kind of goes on to the next person we'll talk about in Tamelo, where the massive B's kind of swayed a lot of people going off him in round 13. But obviously, they're both clicked into gear. Would you be buying Scott Drinkwater, or is it firmly around 17 prioritization? And you got to think about getting Pappy in as soon as he's back.
The fact that he has a 12 in his rolling average, he is still definitely gettable. The issue is where you can fit him. With Pappenhausen coming back, I don't know how I could fit someone like that in there, because you're not going to get rid of Tedesco. You're going to probably have Tedesco perhaps, and then in your 5'8" spot, you're going to have Munster, and then the other one needs to be one of Dylan Brown and Cody Walker for the buys. So if you already don't own Drinkwater, I just don't see how you could fit him in. But if you were to trade one of those guys and you couldn't afford a Pappenhausen, then yeah, he's only going to make, like, you can get him for around 600,000. He's 14% owned. Like, I don't think you could go wrong with grabbing him. But yeah, it's just, I think a lot of people struggle to get him in for those exact reasons.
Better for the owners, I say. So lap it up with this run coming in. Second talking point is one I touched on previously, is Jason Tamelo. Now, the big thing for me and for a lot of Supercoaches this week is Payne Haas going down with that AC injury. They're saying but anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks. But for the purposes of this podcast, let's just assume he's gone for a couple and then he's back for Origin. Obviously, he misses that round 2. Jason Tamelo is firming as a keeper in the front row position. However, he obviously had played the round 13 bye. It doesn't play round 17. He's got an 80 and now an 89 in his return. Is there an argument to be made to move Haas to a Jason Tamalolo, or would you say that it's kind of a bit late, move on a round 17 person?
Very good question. I think there's 2 ways you could do it. If you're low on trades, would you rather worry about the run home, or if you're targeting for this buy, then you wouldn't grab him? He's only at 450k, probably makes just under 20k this week. 470,000. That's gonna you're gonna make money going Haas to him. Do I think Haas is a sell? Even with the 2 to 3 weeks, if you think he's going to have a strong run home, which I believe the Broncos will and he will, I'd hold him. Especially if you've got Max King as your backup, who looks to be the keeper. But if you had the money and you did want to sell Haas, I probably would look at David Clemmer. He does cost around 600k, but he's pumping out some big scores, and I think he'd be really handy if you have Papali'i and Clemmer for that buy round, because they're 2 that could really boost your score for that round, but for the run home. But for those, like, look, if Tamalolo can keep this up, he's a steal for that price. But we saw him start well, then go into a hole and score 40s and 50s. I'm not sure if I want to make that bet. Like, he's had some good minutes the past 2 weeks, but you've had Origin plays missing in both. So I want to see what happens when Cotter comes back. And yeah, look, at the price, you could take the risk, but trades are becoming more precious. And I think I'd rather just go for the buy play. So I'm going to be pretty blunt with a lot of my sponsors, especially I want to go harder for this buy, and I'll be targeting buy players over those kind of plays. The only guys I'll be worrying about getting back is like your Harry Grants and your Pappenhausens. Like, they're priority buys. You need them or you're going to fall behind later.
Yeah, and that's kind of the predicament that I'm in, especially with low trades. Is in this also the reason why I didn't go Grant out when a lot of people going Grant out is I just don't know how I'm going to have the trades to get him back in. And so Haas, another one, you want him back for the run home. And with Tamelo, you're right with the injuries. Yes, they were up a lot, and that's often when he will get hooked and rested. But they didn't have the luxury of having a Cotter there. They didn't have that strong of a forward pack. So I think I'm going to probably wait on it. I might wait a week and see how they play with Cotter back, and then maybe move on someone there. But the Clemmer shout's fantastic. I just don't know whether he's kind of a tier below your Tamelos when they're on form. So, but we'll get to that when we get to David Clemmer. And moving on to the next game, we have the Roosters or the Chooks. With the Titans and the Rabbitohs. So the winners for the Titans, we had Tino with a 123, Greg Marshy with a 92, and Bo Firma with a 73. So great for the ladder for Bo Firma. A lot of people held him. He looking pretty stable in the centre wing position. For the Rabbitohs, we have AJ with 114, Campbell Graham with a 95, and Damien Cook with a 79. No real losses for the Titans. I mean, Jared Wallace had a 31, but I don't think many super coaches have him. For the Rabbitohs, Ilias had a 42 and Murray had a 37. But Murray owners would have been expecting a not so great score after a big performance in State of Origin. It's kind of normal for him. My question, or just some key talking points for this one is Alex Johnson. So he's had 2 scores of 114. He's projected to rise to 640K, similar to Mulatalo. Has the ship sailed on AJ? Or is there an argument to bring him in as a huge pod pick? He's owned by 5%.
You could 100% bring him in. Last week it was between him or Graham, and the way I set up my team was I already had Joey, Manu, and May, and the way I want to set up my centre wing is 2 solid centres with good base stats, and then 2 wingers with high scoring upside. So because I already had one of each, I decided to bring in Graham because I was bringing in Mulatalo. Where if I went Zach Lomax, I probably would have gone Lomax and Johnston. But I preferred the other 2, and I'm not happy with that because I know if Johnson doesn't get that hat trick, his base is going to be a lot lower. Where Graham has gone 50, and I thought, look, if Johnson's scoring all these tries, he's going to be like a bit of an uptick in it. And that 20K enabled me to go to Mulatalo. So, 100%. If I had another way to bring him in this week, or I had like Joey Manu or someone like that went down, I'd be bringing him in. Last year he ended up a tick below 800K, and if you didn't have him, you were screwed. The Bunnies draw isn't that bad, and he will be someone crucial for that buy round. So I think he's soaring out of price, and with a lot of the options we have in the center wing is going to make his ownership stay low because there's so many of these good guys, and you want to try and get as many of them in as possible. I think there's more centers to grab for this next buy round and the run home than there is second rolls and that, but it's near impossible to have 7, gun center wings. You're going to need to have, 4 to 5, or you'd want to have 5, but yeah, it's getting tough to make those moves. You've just got to trust your gut and go with it.
Yeah, and I suppose that kind of same argument relates to my next question, which is about Campbell Graham. Now, obviously, I discussed it at the start of the podcast, the fact that I couldn't go him because it was going to use my last boost, and I want to keep that for the run home. Now, he had a break even of I believe around 26. 28. Yeah. And so he'll go up, you'd say about 600K, 620K, maybe around that kind of range. For people, I mean, he scored 119 and now a 95. And for those who went, say, Mulatalo, Acevo, or Lomax, is he still a trade-in? Or do you think with these last couple of performances, he might get a call-up for Origin?
I was worried about this happening. I was really having my fingers crossed that Latrell would come back and go straight into that side. It's going to be an interesting wait and see. And there is every chance. If you're worried about that, then maybe go an Alex Johnston instead. Or if you miss Mulatalo or, Lomax, you could choose them. But I'm hoping, they could go Wyden and Crichton. or, stick with the Wighton and Stags, and I think he'll just miss out, hopefully. But if he did get picked, I think he's going to be a must for the run home. I think you want one of those Bunnies players. The Bunnies just seem to, even when they're not great, they're starting to tick those wins over. They're going to be there come finals time. And, that left edge is starting to find a bit of form. And when Latrell gets back, they're only going to get better. So I really want to target him. I guess another player that I'll quickly mention for you, Maxi. I said second rollers before. I'm struggling to find quality second rollers for the run home or for this next buy. I think Colin Matangi's a good shout. I know he's kind of circling around that Origin side. I don't see him getting a call up as of yet. But yeah, he scored a 69 on the weekend. Price at 513. He had a break even of 94. So you can pick him up under 480-ish K. So if you think the Bunnies are going to improve, he's had a rough patch of 4 games, but before that, he's like Kickow. He's got that upside to go big. So having the Titans, Dragons, Para, and Knights, Bulldogs, it's not a bad 5-round draw. What do you think of Colin Matangi?
I like him. It's very similar to the Olakau'atu pick. I had Olakau'atu last season. I kind of thought, he's one of those players where, Ola's kind of changed the game a little bit this year. He seems like he has the base to be in the keeper range. I think he's just going to be in around the points, and you're right about the Souths. They always have this massive run home where you got to have minimum of 2 or 3. And the good thing about someone like him is at that price you can kind of play him based on matchup. So he's kind of like the perfect 19th, 20th man. And for someone like me who's got Aiken, who can swing duels, I want to get Tago down to my centers and kind of bring in a second rower. I think it's a perfect trade in there. It's just whether or not, with all these center wings that are coming up, whether you can fit him in. But I wouldn't blame anyone not going him. Anyone going him. He might be one that I'm looking at. But ultimately, I think you're right about the Graham thing. It's if I had to give a chance of whether it gets picked, it's probably around 70% not likely to be picked, 30%, a chance of being picked. And I think that even at 600K, he's looking fantastic. He looks like he's got the base. He's on that beautiful left side where they're going to run into points. So I don't think you can go wrong with bringing him in, even if you've missed out. And as Cameron Williams has said, will both have Bs between 0 and 10 this week. So it's really a last chance to jump on before they get completely out of your price range. So that's something I'm going to look. And
Graham will only go to 10% Maxi, so they're both going to stay pretty low owned. I'm sure a lot of people try and jump on, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot harder for them to get them now.
Yeah. And I actually did not realize that. I thought, everyone I think everyone save for me in the SuperCoach experience boys, brought him in. So that's, maybe I thought it was a bit more than what it was. Anyway, Savs has commented you should put Whiten and Crichton in a wrap, Mikey.
Not much of a rapper. I'm sure Savs can.
Yeah,
assuming it's from Savs. Savs loves his rapping.
He does. If you're good at stalking, or let's use a more positive word. If you're good at locating videos and you're on YouTube, you will find some raps of our fabled leader Brandon Savage, and they're actually very good. I will say, as a rap lover myself. So Savage, everyone look up his raps. Moving on to the next game, we've got the Chooks versus the Storm. It's kind of an interesting game. We had some decent scores from the Storm side. Marion Seve with a 127, Kafusi with a 106. Grant Anderson, a cheapie with 84, and Jerome Hughes with a 73. For the Roosters, you had Butcher with a 74. He played 80 minutes, which is great for owners. Joey Marnie with 65, which could have easily been around about 100 if that try wasn't disallowed. And we have Joseph Swiley with a 59. In terms of losers, Daniel Tupou with a 34, which makes my trade in round 13 look even better. Luke Keary with a 12. And from the Storm perspective, we had Cam Monster with a 43. And Cheese with a 29. The talking points of this one is Roosters' difficult run continues with Parramatta and Penrith in the next 2. At 400K, is Joseph Suwali a sell, or if you held on for this week, do you continue to hold?
I sold Suwali last week. I saw the high break even. A lot of people go, why are you selling him? The main reason I sold him is because I saw an option to get 2 of these gun centre wings for the next buy round. And Suwali, for around his price, I think he relies too much on the tries, and I didn't like the Roosters draw or run. So I decided to offload him, and then I've got like 4 really big centre wings. So I want to stay away from Suwali. Like, look, you could definitely hold him, but like with all these other centre wing options, if you don't have many other guys, because you're going to want to hold your Carrazes and Cooler to make a bit more money, I'd definitely offload him to some of these other guys, like a Suwali to Graham or Johnston would be a lovely trade.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
ran
that's
into
kind
a
of.
virtual rap battle. Anyone in the SuperCoach community, my flow is tight. Look, I'm sure if there's any other rappers listening, you could probably beat him. But
I bet you this is Jakey
I'd love to
doing
see.
it, not Savage. This does not seem like something that Savage would
No,
say.
this sounds like something Sabs would say. Maybe, or Tim. But either way, I'm sure Sabs would be confident. But yeah, the other ones, there's quite a few Storm guys to mention, Maxi. The big one, do you think so? Grant Anderson, he looked awesome. We all love someone that can come in contention, but can he hold the spot? What do we think is going to happen here? With Pappenhausen coming back, it's going to shift Nick Meaney to one of the backline spots. Yeah, which one's it going to be? Do you think he can hold his spot for the next bye?
I think he can. I don't think. I mean, I don't know what the news is on Pappenhausen, but if we can get at least one more game out of Grant Anderson, it'd be fantastic because I think he's better. I mean, Marion Seve, I think Dean Eremea, they're all in contention, but I think he just looked like he was home in that Storm side. But it's a massive flip of is he good enough to be in that side? Absolutely. But does Bellamy perhaps want to bring him in slowly? He might be that kind of player who could bring in at 14. It's a bit of a toss-up. I think to the extent we can wait, a week and see how he performs and for that round 3 when his price rises. I think if not the round coming up, but the round after he's named, obviously you bring him in. I think he can hold the spot. I just don't know because I think we're also blinded by the fact that the Storm, everyone in the Storm backline kind of looks pretty decent. Even Marion Seve this week, who was looking shocking in the last 2 weeks, looked fantastic. So I mean, long-winded answer saying I don't know, but what's your perspective on it?
Look, I'm hoping he can keep the spot. Bellamy likes to give like some of these guys a go, and the fact he got to go over Will Warbrick, who we thought would definitely come in first, that's a massive shout. So we've seen Alarmia being dropped before. They might reward him with it. So I think if you can, it looks like Pappenhausen's going to be named this week by all the mail, and if he does, it'll be interesting to see who gets the other centre spot. And with Coates out, there's 2 wing spots. So Meaney will go on one, and then, it'd be between, to be honest, all he has to do is beat one of these guys. So, it's a good question if he can play centre. But if he can, I think he can hold this spot, and I hope he does. Because it'll make it easier to grab another gun or someone for the next buy round because you could downgrade Carraz or Cooler. And then the other one I'm looking at too is B. Smith's price starting to drop. Look, if something happens and he can increase in minutes, I think he's a good shout. Just, the hooker second row is very valuable if you're holding a Cotter. And look, he's probably going to play bigger minutes in that buy round, so I don't mind having him and you just have him as a backwards option for the run home. So the Storm you need to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm a cheese owner myself. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. I'm not too impressed. I know with minutes he looks good, but I don't know whether it's he's put on too much mass and turned into kind of a prop. And, I think I was talking about it, a couple of weeks back where he just, he looked like he could score every game, last season. And this season he looks good, but I mean, I think he scored 29 this week in limited minutes. But again, I think he's been playing 50 to 60 minutes most games. You add 20 minutes, you might play 80 during round 17. Obviously, when Harry Grant's playing Origin, but if you didn't own Cheese, I'd be waiting to see how he looks in the rounds going up to round 17. I think he's maybe around 16 purchase or prior to round 17, just get him in there because I haven't seen enough from him to kind of give me the indication that you need to get him in as soon as you can. So that's my kind of perspective on that one. I think also another shout, is there any argument to sell Cam Munster? 700k, has a score of 43 in his rolling average, has a mixed draw with Manly and Broncos. Manly probably is a clear victory for them, but Broncos appear to be in some pretty good form. Any argument to sell Munster?
No chance. Not happening. He's been so good this year, and it'd be too scary not to have him for the run home. Like, I think anyone with the Dylan Brown and Cody Walker combo could be lethal. I think that's the only other combo you'd want to go roll with, or even if you got Drinky there. But I just can't see, like, why you wouldn't sell him. Like, if you've got a decent backup, which I'm sure most people would, why sell him? So, yes, it's just a waste. Unless you've got a way to bring him back and you've got, 18 to 20 trades left, then, maybe I can see it. But even if I had extra trades, I'd just be too scared not to have him every time he takes on that field because he can get 100 plus like that. So, yeah, not happening.
Yeah, I think if Dylan Brown perhaps, turned up this week and I had 3 or 4 more trades, I'd consider it. But in my position, I know I just need him for the run home. So going to be holding on to Cam Munster there. Now, next game is Broncos and the Raiders. Very, very entertaining game. For the Broncos, we had Thomas Flegler with an 83, Pat Carrigan with an 82, Ezra Mann with a 79. For the Raiders, we had Corey Horsburgh with a 97, Joe Tarpane with a 95, Adam Elliott with a 92, and Hudson Young with a 75. I know Tim is an owner of Hudson, so be happy with that. In terms of the losers, we had Haas with a 31, obviously had that AC injury, and Adam Reynolds with a 40. And for the Raiders, we had CHM with a 25 and Starling with a 35. You've covered the first one of my talking points, which was, is Haas a sell or a hold? You believe he's obviously, or you've said that he is a hold to the extent you can. My question, though, in this one is Joe Tarpane is looking absolutely fantastic. Had 73, 78, and now 95 in his rolling average. If you for example, you disagreed with both your and I's take of holding Haas, is he someone you would go? And this kind of gives me to kind of a ranking system of Clemmer, Tarpane, and I believe the other one is Lolo. How would you rank them as an overall player if you were going to trade Haas out?
If money's not a problem, it'd be Clemmer, Lolo, and Tarpane. I just think no matter how it is, like Clemmer's just a meat and potatoes. You're going to pay for it and you're going to know what you're going to get. Where Tamelo and Tarpane rely a lot on the minutes. And I think because of that, it just makes him a bit risky. But when Tarpane's on, he's on. It's just too risky for mine. But 17% owned, break even to 45 this week. Look, I don't mind it. Well, technically, you're going to have to pay 600k for him. That's what I don't like about it. So I'd rather go Clemmer. He would have been a great purchase before that buy round, though. And back to that other guy, the Maxi and Mexi show. I like it.
Let's rename it. I love it too.
Maxi and Mexi show.
Maxi and Mexi show. So we have. Yeah, and I do agree with that. I mean, I was considering him when I was looking to see whether I was going to trade Haas this week. However, you're going to pay a huge premium for him. There's always a kind of underlying concern with the Raiders of what does Ricky do with the minutes. He's played the minutes he needs to last couple of rounds, but is there some holding there? Is there some obviously some early showers for Joey Tarpane? But I think if you're an owner, hold for as long as you can. To the extent you can hold him, maybe as a 19th or a 20th man, continue it because he's looking absolutely fantastic in that position. Which brings us on to the next game, which is the Tigers and the Seagulls. So as a Manly fan, I absolutely love this one. Josh Aloiai top scoring with a 121, along with Ruben Garrick. We had Ola Kawatu with a 112, looked fantastic. And I think he'd be firmly in the Origin kind of shout if he did.
Just quickly, Maxi, before dive deep into this one, let's just quickly talk about Ezra Mam because I think he's a huge talking point. I know a lot of people, he was the most brought in player last week. I'll get his percentage at 34,000, but I'm pretty sure Sabs and Timmy both didn't grab him. A lot of people wouldn't grab him if they've got 4 gun halves. If you've missed the boat this week, would you grab him? So obviously, the more information we have is Adam Reynolds picked up an injury. Looks like he could play this week. And then Tyson Gamble's got a bit of an injury. It's starting to look like he could actually play round 17. I know a lot of us just grabbed him because we wanted the 150K payday. But now with his third score in a row above 75, he'll look to make another quick 100K. He's kind of like the Sam Walker of last year and looks like a playable and keeper option if he stays in this side. What do you think on him? Did you grab him firstly? You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I got him, and he looks so good. He's kind of like, I don't want to, kind of compare. I don't like comparing players too much, but he looks like, like a MILF of 3 or 4 years ago. Running the ball, he looks fantastic. Obviously, that step to get the try was ridiculous. And I think there's 2 responses I'll give on that. The first one is trade dependent. So if you have lots of trades, because the thing is if you haven't got him now and you're low on trades, you've also got to consider whether you go Mam and whether you have enough trades to go in Anderson, or whether it's it's too late to go these kind of cheapies. The thing about Ezra Mam is that he's that type of player who could end up at around the 550K mark. Now, obviously, that a lot of things have got to go right for him, but he's great running the ball, got good base attack. Playing for a Broncos side that's looking better every week, and Adam Reynolds is still kind of lingering with that injury. We'll let Ezra kind of have those plays. It's not like he's dominating every single play that goes down. I think you can definitely go worse than to bring him in this week. Yes, you've kind of missed that initial big price rise, but I still think there's at least 250K to be made on Ezra Mam. So to the extent you can make it work this week, I'd try to. In fact, I prioritize him over whether you can bring in, say, Grant Anderson for round 17. And I think that what this also makes clear is that he's not losing that spot when Tyson Gamble's back. If he's playing like this, there is Tyson Gamble was really good and solid in the games he played, but Mam just looks like a different class. So I think the job security issues kind of go with Ezra. I think he'll be locked in that side for as long as he's in the form he's in. So a long kind of way of saying, if you haven't got him, bring him in this week. Is that your view?
And let's say he does get dropped. Yeah, I agree with you. If you'd say, let's say he does get dropped, and they stick with Gamble, then if he peaks at around 500K, you could easily offload him to Jerome Hughes before the bye, or go to someone like Cherry Evans for the run home. So realistically, all he needs to do is bang out another score around 50. He's going to make another 100, 150K. If he scored a try, I think he won in every game. So if he can keep this up, I just see him easily being a 500K player because he's just got such a great running game. Let's move over to the Tigers and Manly if you're ready, Maxi.
Yeah, fantastic. So we had Ola with a 112, Kohler with a 75, which, as we've both kind of discussed, will keep his price rolling on, which is great, even if you didn't play him this week. For the Tigers, we had Joe with an 83. He's looked incredible, and Chris Byers actually said, "Often go easy a shout." I don't think so, but he's looking. He's looking great in quite a poor side. Luke Garner with a 71. Did you play him this week, Mikey?
No, so originally I had Garner instead of Mam, but I had to play Ezra Mam to give him a number. So Garner was my 18th man. I didn't play him, but at the same time, I got him for 350K. He had a low break even again. I'm already going to sit near a 200K profit for him, and he's going to stay as a super pod. So I'm very happy with the purchase. And even when the Tigers are performing bad, he's still getting tries. Just quickly on the Joe O, I disagree with you, Maxi. I think he's a great buy. No. I'd probably put him before Tapane and Lolo on that scale if I was buying a front row this week. Have a listen to his scores. So these are his minutes. 68, 65, 46, 71, 57 with scores of 55, 88, 40, 94, 62, 60. He's just been like a slow plotter the whole year, and he's getting the minutes. He's always his PPM's always been pretty good. If you wanted to go for a bit of a pod, only at 4% owned, I don't mind it. He's dual compared to Clemmer. So if you already have a front row or second row in your side, there is an argument where Joe could be a better buy than Clemmer. I personally prefer Clemmer, but hey, if I've got the money and Haas gets injured, I would definitely consider Joe because yeah, I'm all over a front rower that can just PPM, and in the Tigers, there's not too many competitions for minutes in that middle, so that's what I like with Joe.
Yeah, the thing that puts me off kind of Joe is the attacking stats. Reliance on them from a Tigers point of view. I think the base stats are there and he looks fantastic. It's just that, he's 94 the other week against Manly, had a try in it. The 88 had a try assist in it. Did he have a try assist?
He had a try assist in this one, but yeah, without it, you're still sitting at a 60. And I think that's not too bad because he seems to be playing like an Isaiah Yeo type role for the Tigers, where these are coming a bit more frequency because he's having a lot of hands in the second phase play. And purely the only reason I'm looking at him is how he's played in actual NRL too. And the Tigers, I think, can, still, they look shocking on the weekend, but I still think they're going to have a few more wins in them on the weekend matchups. And whenever we see Adam Dewey come back, I expect them to be a bit better. No idea when that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's definitely a shout, and I think he will rise up to about 580, 590k. But I mean, it's going to be a toss-up. If he decides to sell Haas this week, there's a plethora of options. And look, the more I look at him, the more he seems like he's. I mean, it all depends again on when he plays round 17. He's, if we have a couple of injuries to the Queensland side, he may come in there in the form he's in. But we shall see on that front. Alex Twala's had a 69. In terms of the losers, Nofo had a 27, Tuolagi had a 22. And for the Seagulls, we had Schuster with a 41 and Burbo with a 6. The key talking point with this one, I mean, from my perspective, is I actually looked up at Ruben Garrick and I thought he was going to be at least 30% owned or round about that. However, he's only at about 18 to 20%. He's had scores of 167, 99, now 121 in his previous 4 games in the absence of Tommy Turbo. And he's projected to be around 700k. Given there's a fair few teams that appear to be without him, would you be bringing him in as a priority trade, or do you think you've missed out on him, prioritised around 17 buys in the centre wing position?
Good question for me because I don't own him, and that's why my face just wasn't happy. Oh, I'm spewing. I meant to get him 3 weeks ago. I was short on getting him by 5k and went with Joey Manu. Joey Manu's been great, but Garrick is definitely someone that I do want to have for the run home, but I just don't think I can make it happen with my trades and that. I think I've ruled off getting him purely because there's 2 fullbacks that I want to have, and then there is so many other centre wing buys. Like right now, if I'm like, all right, Garrick for 700, or I could go Campbell Graham or Joey Manu for, mid 600s, I'm going to take them because I feel like they can do really well too. But he's looking like a big keeper playing at that fullback role. So it seems like the past 2 weeks, who's going to end up on a 40 or a 50, and then he gets all this junk attacking stats. So I feel like there will be a patch where if Manly start to struggle against some of the harder teams, he might regress. But look, I couldn't go against anyone buying Garrick, but I think a lot of people won't due to those circumstances.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to also remember with Garrick is we're up against the Cowboys this week and then Melbourne the week after. So
exactly, hopefully some low scores.
Yeah, well, if he's going to score low, it's going to be against the next 2 teams. And yes, he's got the 121 in his rolling average, which will keep his price probably around that point. And we do have Newcastle and the Dragons after that. But I mean, 700k is a lot to spend on a centre wing. I don't know if I was a no-no whether I'd go there, despite me being a Manly fan. But glad I used that boots to get both him and Manu, because I originally did what you did, Mikey. I brought Manu in, and during the round, I was going to man the game. One of my last before I move overseas. So I thought, got to bring in Ruben for the game, and luckily it paid off for me.
Before we move on, Maxi, I got one for you. That's kind of a sleeper. He's only owned by 1%. Comes in at 429k before this week. Kenny Mamalo, even in a really low performing side, he seems to keep scoring really well. That injured score he had of 1 where he only played 2 minutes really dropped his price. And in the last 2 weeks, he scored a 90 against the Bulldogs, a 79 against the Bunnies, and he got a 65 against Manly in a beaten side. they seem to always favour his side. If you did it this week, props to you, 429k. He's going to make about 60k. So you'll probably have to get him for just a tad below 500k. Kenny Mamalo, I think you could do a lot worse than him as like a fifth centre wing option. Could be great for the buy. But as I said, there are so many centre wing options. I'm personally looking at someone like a Sivo to plug that fifth one, as I think Parramatta will perform it better. But look, Kenny Mamalo could be a good shout as a fifth backup. And as I said, he continues to, even only when they score one try, he's the man that scores a try or gets line breaks. Looking at his scores, like they've been pretty solid. Like I'd be happy with anything over 50, and he's scored over 50 in like 65% of his games he's played. So not a bad shout just to look at.
No, not a bad shout at all. And they've got two fantastic games coming up with the Bulldogs and the Warriors. So, I mean, going into round 17 against Parramatta, those are two pretty juicy matchups. I know, we're talking about the Tigers here. But, if there's the Bulldogs had a great game today. Well, let's hope it continues because I think it's great for their fans. But I don't know I don't know whether we can call them, a top 8 caliber side yet. And obviously the Warriors are probably the worst team in the league. So two fantastic matchups for him going in. And if you got on at 420k, I think that's, good. 480k, you're starting to get into 100k, 120k, Campbell Grahams and I think Mortalo is going to be maybe a bit more. So I don't know whether I go there, but absolutely huge pod. He's only owned, by 707 teams, I think it is. So
Crazy.
Ridiculously good pod. In terms of Olakau'atu, 70, 86 and now 112. A lot of people are talking, and this is probably something we've talked about in previous weeks, but just want to touch on it again. A lot of people are talking about no DCE, no turbo. His scores aren't going to be as good. Do you think he's a rock solid keeper and you try and find a way into your sign?
He's a keeper. I was considering after the bye round, it was between Olakau'atu and Kikau to go, and then in that bye round, they proved to me why both of them are going to not leave my side at all. As much as you want to flip over a number, I don't think it's worth selling Olakau'atu just because, and the same with Kikau. We're going to get into the Penrith game next. Olakau'atu he was the best player. He's been the best player for Manly 2 weeks in a row, and he's quickly, to be honest with the way he's going, I'd have him as one of my second roles of the year. He's been absolutely crazy, and all that converts to SuperCoach. He's got a pretty decent base. His tackle bust basically become base. He gets almost 10 a game, and he's just so hard to tackle, and he scores basically a try a game. Reasonably for how crazy he's going, his ownership isn't that high. I think it's still below the 20 mark. Honestly, he's definitely probably, you want him for the run home for sure. So he'd be a priority trade to me if you didn't already own him. And now with these big scores starting to buff up, he's going to, rise in price. So, I can't believe how well he's going. He's, I think for most people, he's becoming one of my favorite Manly players. I love him. He's awesome to watch.
Yeah, look, he's absolutely incredible as a player. And I think the thing that also is kind of key from a SuperCoach perspective is the try he scored this week. He had no real right to score that try. He beat 3 or 4 players to get there. He also had another line break where he was almost 2 meters out, 3 meters out from the sideline and just fended off 2 or 3 people and obviously broke the line. I think that was, passed it to Kohler in the end. But yeah, he just looks to be in and around the points, and regardless of, whether DC is in or DC is out over, certain periods and stuff like that. And obviously the absence of Turbo, he's stepping up big time. So to the extent you don't have him and you can kind of fit him into your kind of team, especially prior to round 17 buys. Remember also they have those two, we have some the Cowboys and the Storm coming up. Maybe kind of wait on 2 weeks, but see whether you can fit him into your ride home. That'd be fantastic to bring someone like him in. Amazing player. Moving on to the next game, as you predicted, Mikey, we have the Knights and the Panthers. So the winners, we had Brian To'o with 116, Nathan Clear with 106, Stevie Crichton with 100, Kikau with an 88, and from the Knights' perspective, we had Clemmer with 65 and Chris Randall, for anyone who's held on, with a 63. Key talking point, a couple of weeks ago, you and I spoke about Brian To'o, and I was saying that I was going to bring him in, even though he wasn't playing round 17, just because I missed out on him for the majority of last season. I think he's a rock solid keeper, and he was going to go down to I think 550k and be an amazing buy. And we kind of both discussed that a lot of their attack was going down that Isaac Tago, Taylor May side, and not going through Tago on the right and Crichton on the right. That's kind of changed in recent weeks, and I'm kind of wanting to tap into your brain as a Panthers fan. Now, they've clicked into gear on the right-hand side. He will bottom out. I think we'll find it around about the 560K range. Would you blame anyone going him?
No, I wouldn't. I'd love to do it, and I think you got to do it this week because he's going to have that 100 and whatever score he scored this week with the 90. For 560k, I don't think you'll get him any cheaper. The key thing is Penrith are starting to get a bit crafty. They're still targeting that left, but they're using both sides, and Crichton's starting to pass the ball, and they played clinical Penrith on the weekend, and they're coming up against the Warriors, who I think they could absolutely put a cricket score on. So, I would do it if you could, but the main thing is, especially with me, is I've got Taylor May, I've got Tago, I've got Kicker, I've got Cleary, I've got Corus out at the moment. I've got so many Penrith players, and if I owned all 6 of them, I would still score really well. But yet again, I'm going to be boring and go back to, if I've got that money, I'd prefer to grab Johnson this week or even Lomax. There's just so many good centre wings for this next buy that you could have for the run home, and I think overall it'd be a better option where there are going to be some weeks where the Panthers might just target that left side and Toa doesn't get it as much. But the thing I really liked from this game is he upped his runs, his tackle buster back. He started to look like the Brian Toa of last side. So, I could see a world where you do bring him in, but it's tough. I think once we come past that round 17, if someone goes down or I decide to sell Taylor May because he's been going shit, To'o will probably be a man I look at because he's one of my favourite players in the NRL, and I hate not owning him too, but I'm just looking at it and going, there's other people I need to get first.
Yeah, and that's kind of my concern is there's a lot of centre-wing options which have kind of come out of the fray, and you can't have all of them, but a lot of them obviously are playing round 17. And the issue for kind of Brian To'o is round 18, they play the Tigers, I believe. And if there's any game in which you want to rest someone like him, that's the game to go. And that's 2 rounds he's going to miss. Obviously, he doesn't play the round 17 bye, and obviously he's in Origin. But round 18, he comes up against the Tigers. So I don't want to bring him in, not have someone like Campbell Graham for the round 17 bye, and then miss him out for 2 games. But, I mean, if you had the bollocks coming up against Warriors, he's an absolutely incredible pod pick, and he's only in 3% of teams at the moment. So if you're like me and the 3,000's looking for a bit of a pod pick, he's looking juicy. So I think what it will come down to is it will be either Campbell Graham or Brian To'o in for me this week. But at the moment, I'm kind of edging towards Brian To'o. From a Knights perspective, David Clemmer, a lot of people in the comments or someone was saying, bring Haas to Clemmer. Give us kind of your perspective on David Clemmer. You've kind of spoken about it throughout the podcast as he's a relatively safe option, perhaps doesn't have the ceiling of the top 2 or 3 front row forwards, but you think you can't go wrong with bringing him in.
No, you can never go too wrong with bringing him in. He's playing really well. I guess you could be concerned that he might get an Origin spot, but I think there is a couple of guys, like they probably recall a Jake Trbojevic before, or even Saifidi before they go to him. But he's been one of the Knights' best players. He's their go-forward guy, and I've owned Clemmer a lot in SuperCoach, and you kind of know what you're going to get, and it's basically over a point per minute, and 604k. He'll kind of stay roughly around that price, and you know what I mean? You know what you're going to get from him. If Haas was out for an extended stint, or even if you wanted a third front rower, I could see going to him. And I just think in the buy round, a 60 to 70 from him is huge. I don't think you could go wrong with him.
And I mean, if you're one of those people, Rick says, he thinks you can survive the season without getting Haas back in.
You can.
He's safe. He's as safe as you can get with good old David Clemmer. Not too exciting, but You can't go too wrong with
See,
David Clemmer.
if you believe that quite, like if you believe you're gonna like if you sell him that you're not gonna need him back, then I agree that he is a sell. But just when you're low on trades, I think I've got to use my trades for other reasons. And no matter how you're looking at it, you might want to have good numbers for this next buy. You do want to have an arsenal of trades for your run home, or like for injuries. Like you want to have at least 4 aside for injuries. And it's looking like those trade boosts were more valuable to use at the start, where now that you're low on trades, you're going to be more inclined. Like, I don't see me using that last trade boost, maybe on the week before the buys, or if you have 3 players go down in 1 week, you'll use a boost. But yeah, I'm glad I still have 1 left, but it's a learning curve this year for us for these boosts. And I think what you did with them will be the deciding factor in winning.
Yep, for sure. And I mean, me not using my last trade boost this week on Campbell Graham could be, a decision which keeps me out of the top 1,000. So yeah, it's a brutal season, especially with these trade boosts. Going on to the Warriors and the Sharks, as you've discussed, we had some quite fantastic scores from Ronaldo Mulatalo with 106. Matty Moylan came through with 101. Sione Katoa came through with a 93, and if you had Talakai, I know there's a bit of drama about him, but you're happy he played this week, and he scored a 79. And Will Kennedy, for those who went him, also scored a 79. From a Warriors perspective, Wade Egan scored well with an 81, and Reece Walsh scored well with a 69. Key talking points, I suppose we can kind of combine it all into one big kind of talking point, which is Sharks backs. Sione Katoa with a 93. He's going to be around 520k with passing 48.
A shout out to Jake, who actually brought him in instead of Mulatalo this week. He brought him in as a pod at 490k, obviously because he couldn't afford Mulatalo. Only in 1% of teams, super moved by him. That was a big factor in him beating me this week. And then also Sabs did bring in Will Kennedy. Shout out to Sabs, but I don't like this trade. I actually hate this trade. With someone low on trades, why the hell are you bringing in Will Kennedy with a break even of 158, knowing Pappenhausen is coming back? I can't get around this trade at all, and I think it's the most ridiculous trade ever, because if Pappenhausen comes back and then you go, I'm going to sell Will Kennedy to Pappenhausen, then that's just like chucking SuperCoach in the bin in my eyes. So I definitely think it could be a buy, but after that or that -2 or -10 come out, like unless you thought he was going to score 200 this week, which Will Kennedy has never done. Sorry, I just needed to really get that off my chest because I just can't believe the Will Kennedy trade. Like when I saw Sabs do it, I was like, whoa, like why? But look, he scored well. He scored well, but I'll fight you won't. I can't believe it. Yeah. But anyways, shout out. As you said, the backs are going all great for the Sharks.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Will Kennedy, I mean, it's an absolutely big balls move from Sabs, and maybe that's the reason why he's going to be ranked so highly. It's tough when you're low on trades, because I mean the key thing is Ezra Mams, and this is another one. Will Kennedy's going to be around that probably by the time Bottle's out, around about 300k mark. You got Grant Anderson coming in. Like there's so many different ways to make cash. I understand Will Kennedy's going to play round 17, but yeah, I mean,
he didn't get Ezra Mam this week. He didn't get Ezra Mam, and he didn't get Will Kennedy, so that's where I would call it a foul, because he's going to lose money there with Kennedy, and he's also lost making 150k on Mam. That's just probably a short-term look at it. But look, he's way ahead of us. So I'm not going to, I just think this move was a bad one, but everything else he's done has been awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Look, I'm sure Sabs will find a way to make it look like an absolute masterclass. My question in terms of Sharks outside backs is, if you say, I mean, probably the first one is, if you don't own Ronaldo Mulatalo, he's going to be sitting around 640k, scores a 71, now 106 in his past 3. Now the Sharks do have the Titans and then the Dogs, 2 fantastic matchups. But then they go to Melbourne, Cowboys, Penrith, and then South Sydney. Would you be buying into Ronaldo Mulatalo?
Yeah, Molotalo scored really high when he versus Storm last, and it's important to note that Storm game they will be missing your Munsters, your Grants. They're going to have people out of that for Origin, so I can get around it. Let's have a look at some of the top teams they played this year. Melbourne 125, Manly scored 84 against them, and then like Parramatta he scored 40 against, Roosters 71. So he hasn't come up against the Panthers yet, and yeah, he does have a tough run, but to me he's a season-long keeper. The Sharks outside backs are great, and I think even against the top clubs, he can still score tries. So this week for me, if you don't own Molotalo or Johnston, I think you want one, and you're going to have to pay a bit more for him now. But I think this week you're going to have to pay and choose one of them. I think who would I prefer out of two of them? Well, I picked Molotalo, but I think it's like a flip of a coin because now I look at it like, who do I think is going to score more tries for the rest of the year? I'd probably say Johnston. Just because we've seen him do it so many times before, and Mulatalo seems to always pick up an injury. But yeah, look, they're both sitting very low owns. Like I know quite a people picked up Mulatalo this week, but he's still only going to be around 6 to 7%. So yeah, I don't think you could go wrong with earning anyone in that backline for the Sharks. And just quickly, Maxi with Talakai, it looks like he's going to get 2 weeks. The key thing is he'll be back for round 17. I think he's a hold. And to be honest, I sat out Garner and Tager this week. I got so much step. I'm happy if he's not playing because it'll just make less of a headache. Do you think the fact that he's going to play round 17 from what we know, do you think he's a hold? Like you wouldn't sell him, would you?
No, I wouldn't. And the thing is like he's pretty much bottomed out in price. So if you've held him for this long, I don't think you would have bought into him this week knowing that he has 2 weeks off after this week. I think you just hold on. He's a keeper. I don't have him when I haven't owned him the whole season, but I do think he's a keeper. The thing about Talakai missing is does it also affect Mulatalo? Because that left side is lethal, and part of the reason is because they used Talakai in that decoy kind of role and go straight out to Ronaldo. Do you think that affects Ronaldo's scores going forward? So firstly, would you hold Talakai? And second of all, do you think it affects Mulatalo, Talakai being out?
I think they've created such a great combo. And I think, yeah, it will affect him a bit because I think with how many people are trying to mark against Talakai, it makes a 2-on-1 situation more times than less, and that equals in a line break to Mulatalo. Because generally speaking, when Mulatalo scores well, so does Talakai. But at the same time, the cutout ball will be used, and we've seen him score pretty well in the past. So I'm not entirely too worried. Maybe though, as a potential buyer, this might make you choose Johnston instead. But as an owner, I still think he can score pretty well because we've seen how well Connor Tracy can do, and I'm assuming Connor Tracy's going to slip straight back into that side at centre. And I'm not overly worried. So no, I wouldn't sell him, and I'm not overly worried.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my perspective too. Is down that side, they obviously favour it. I mean, Katoa is a great buy, but I definitely think Ronaldo is going to be fine ultimately in that side. Peter's commented, is it confirmed that he's suspended? I actually only saw
something where he was.
It was in the SuperCoach notes. It was in the notes.
I also saw. Yeah, I saw Whisperer post something about it. I'm not sure if it was completely confirmed, but from what I read when I got back from camping was that he was going to miss 2 weeks because of it. But I've got nothing official, so hopefully for the Teamless podcast, we can get that sewed up, or it will be sewed up because he won't get named. So, if he maybe misses that round 17 buy and he's out for 3, I definitely could see a world where you'd sell him purely because of his price at $5.57. It wouldn't be too hard to get in a Johnston or get a Mamalo. I think that would make me prompt to sell purely on that, or even go to someone who I was just about to bring up is Cam McInnes. I think is one hooker second role that I want for the run home. You can switch him with someone like Cotter if you've got him, and then he becomes your hooker for that buy round. Break even to 32. And the only thing that worries me is his minutes, but his PPM has been absolutely fantastic and hasn't posted a score below 50 since round 8. So what do you think on Cam McInnes at what will cost you probably $5.75 next week?
I really like Cam McInnes as a buy. I don't have him, but he's someone I could easily go Aitken and switch Tago down and go to him for the buy. I think the thing that I like about McInnes is he's playing that kind of yo role. There was one passage I was watching where, leading up to a try, he had his hands on the ball in 4 straight tackles, and one of them where he was a cutout in one of them, and then they passed back to him, and there was one where, then he was targeted like 10 meters from the line. I just think, he's a base. We always know he's a base stat beast. He's going to get you minimum 55, 60, and you've got the upside of being a Shark squad, which is firing well and truly. I really like him, and I think he's at a good price. 555k with a break even of 32 around will go up to about 570k. I don't think you can go wrong with him. It's just a matter of how do you fit him in with all the round 17 trades you've got. But I think you'll find a way into my side before round 17. Do you own him? And if not, are you going to trade him in?
No, I don't own him, and he's only in as you said, like 5% of teams. That's what makes him, like, I'm looking at him, and the fact I can switch him with Cotter. I do want to have someone like him or Brandon Smith for that buy and for the run home to be able to switch. It's just kind of looking at it. There's not too many second rows I want to sell, and if I do sell one, it probably might have to be Tago if no one gets injured, and if it is, it's going to be between McInnes and Kolomatangi. And if I'm looking at them side by side, I think purely cash is going to be so important. There's going to be less cheapies. You're going to take less cheapies for the run home. So I think that's what would maybe steer me to Kolomatangi, because you're going to get him for about 490k next week. That's a price difference in about 70, 80k. That's a difference of picking up someone else. So I am very keen on him, but at the same time, I think at this stage, I prefer to get Kolomatangi as another upside player for my side for the buy round and the run home.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I go is, the upside of Kolomatangi is so much more. The McInnes is a safe pick, but I think if you're in our ranking system, in our rankings at the moment, where you're around, you got to make the bolder moves. And that's why I was kind of thinking of To'o as a bit of a kind of pod pick, but also Kolomatangi. He's that kind of upside pick where we need those ones to get into the top 1,000. We only need about 1 or 2 of them to end up working out for us. But he's definitely that one. But I don't think you can go wrong if you're trying to consolidate your position in the top 1,000. I go McInnes. If you're ranked outside like you are, like you and I are, Mikey, I'd be going for someone like Kolomatangi. My last question on this one is, any love for Jesse Ramian? He was kind of shouted as a potential alternative to Katoa and Mulatalo. Be around 530k with previous scores of 52.70 and now a 53. Would you be going Ramian? Probably the best thing is rank these 3 Sharks outside backs: Katoa, Ramian, and Will Kennedy.
I think if you also take price into the matter, I'd probably go Mulatalo, Katoa, then Ramian. But it also depends what you're after. If you're after like someone with solid base, I go Ramian. If not, I would I just think these wingers, like, they make so many runs and they score so many tries that how can you not go one of them? So that's why I put the wingers ahead. But as I said, like, you could happily own 2 of these 4 Shark center wings, even maybe 3 if you really wanted to. But I definitely think you're going to want to have at least one. So it's kind of handy having Talakai in your second row, and then you can have another one in your center wing. So because it's weird this year, it looks like it's like a year where you normally want to load up your center wing with as many second rows as possible. But I've literally got a full center wing, and then in my second rows, I've got 2 centers. Like, it's just, the centers are just really killing it this year, like your center wings. So they've got the more upside, and the second rows are just taking a bit of a dip. So I think that's where it can be won and lost, and where you can make some ground is, have a week where you're playing 5 to 6 center wing guns. That's honestly how I could see one of the top scorers for the rounds getting that $1,000 cash. So it could be an option that I'll look at, but it's just tough to navigate at the moment.
Yeah, and we talked previously on this pod, Mikey, about changes from season to season, and I thought that it was going to be not like last season where you had those like huge scores from wingers and backlines, because of the whole 6 again kind of changed there, and I thought it was going to be a bit more of a balance, but it's still looking like it's more towards last season than it is towards perhaps the start of previous seasons, where these wingers are still going to score really high. and they're still going to be those lopsided victories. I don't think it's changed necessarily too much. Which brings us on to the final game of the round, probably the least relevant from a SuperCoach perspective, but a great from a feel-good perspective. I think everyone that wasn't a Parramatta fan was going for the Doggies in this one, and they came through in huge fashion. We had Matt Burton with a 94, Josh Adokar with an 89, putting himself back into Origin contention. Max King with a 76, which included a line break assist. We had Jacob Carraz come through with a 75. And from the Eels, not much went their way. However, Mitch Moses still scored 69, which was fantastic in a losing side, especially a losing side that scores 4 points. Isaiah Papali'i with a 61. Will Pensy with a 60. Ryan Madison only scored a 45. However, I don't think that's too much of a concern coming back from Origin, that his minutes were a bit minimised. And Dylan Brown also was kind of disappointing with a 40.
And Sevo with a 28 was really poor.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing, I didn't think many people brought in Sevo. I think it was kind of like once your Grahams and your Mulitalos came in, I think he was firmly the fourth. But, I mean, if you brought him in this week and didn't bring in the others, then condolences to you. Obviously, it's a big balls pick. In terms of talking points for SuperCoach, Max King with a 76 played pretty solid minutes. Again, does what Max King does, offloads, tackles, tackle busts. You're saying you can hold Haas because of how good Max King is going. You reckon 100%. He's firmly in the keeper kind of, or the 19th, 20th man in front row forward position, right?
Yeah, I personally think the main reason too, even if Haas somewhat gets names, I think I'll play King over Haas this week. Purely, Mick Potter trusts him. He's giving him the minutes. If he gets these minutes, I think he's easily just a nice third front row, and you don't have to waste a trade having a third front row, because I think if I want to stick with Haas and Papali'i and then King as a backup, then I can kind of save trades there. But the main thing too is, we saw Haas already been pain managing with one AC joint. Now he's got another injury to it. I just think he won't have as many minutes even when he comes back from it. But yeah, Max King is just looking awesome. He's going to make some more money now. He's been such a good buy from 188k. And look, if his minutes drop down, then yeah, I'll happily maybe I could sell him to a Clemmer or an Offangawi come round 17. But if he's pumping this out, I'd prefer just to save the trade. I also just wanted to, give a shout out to Clarkey, or not a good shout out. Paul Bugger did Parramatta 13 plus to win $5,000 on a massive multi if you follow him on his page. So. Look, I was so happy for Parramatta to lose, but I was so sad for him to lose that bet. As I can't, he nailed 7 legs to get to that last leg, and he's not much of a gambler either, too. So crazy stuff. I bet at halftime. I couldn't believe it, but I'm not really much of a Parramatta fan. They're Penrith's biggest rivals, and I love it when they get beat by last place, because everyone that thinks Parramatta, this is your year. Sorry, Parra fans, it's not.
I think even as a Manly fan, I kind of enjoy it when Parramatta lose. But anyway, I mean, it sucks. I mean, it's also sucked. I mean, from Penrith's perspective, of all the games they could lose, they lost against the Eels. So it's funny how rugby league works, especially from a Clarkey perspective. You'd think, this is the easiest game to bet. I don't know what the odds were prior to the game starting.
Well, he could cash out for 1,500, so he could have taken 1,500 off his 250. But look, I'm sure 90% of people out there would have done the same thing he did. I would have let it ride too. No, not many people were predicting this. They were paying $1.08 to win, so which is crazy. Bulldogs would have been easily around the $10 for a 13 plus.
Jesus,
more,
far out.
out.
Funny game, rugby league, and that's why we love it, because even though. Odds say one thing, you never really know what happens when you get into a footy field, and that's what's fantastic about rugby league. From an Eels perspective, for the low scorers in this one, Dylan Brown's, Madison's obviously Origin affected, your Mike Sivas with 28. Is this just an absolute mulligan and you continue to hold those ones that you have, or are we genuinely concerned about the Eels going forward?
No, I think they'll bounce back. They seem to do this. They actually haven't won a Monday game they played this year, which is a couple. But I think, their run is a bit mixed. They've got some tough games mixed with some easier games in there. So I think, they will come back from this. I think they will still be a top 8 side. They're going to, on their day, they can beat the best. And, and I know they can beat that. I'm still looking at you guys like Mike Acevo, who I think, the Parramatta Eels play a lot better at their own stadium. And, with that 28, he could drop a bit in price and you could pick him up for 17, then run home with him. And, there's talks that Ryan Madison could be up for losing his spot for Origin. Then he also becomes someone that you want to try and rush in because he's perfect for the run home. So I think it's a bit harsh to drop him. He didn't really play that many minutes, but I think Fitler will make a few changes because of the disappointing loss at home. So, yeah, other than that, I don't have too many interests in many other para players except for Madison, Sevo, and Dylan Brown. But, one may come up. I just think there's too many mouths to feed in that forward pack, and that's why I'm too scared to touch a Sean Lane or Niokore. And I expect him to shift around the forward pack again after this loss. Put Papali'i back on his edge. He's still so great, but put him back on that edge and look how many. He's been one of the best second rowers of this year, probably behind Olokolatu, and yeah, let's chuck him in lock. So, let's hope that they do that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's got to be some changes after that game. So let's hope that goes back to it. But I completely agree. There's always kind of an interest in Sean Lane. He kind of hovers around that mark. They kind of have a pretty mixed run, so not at the moment. But yeah, Eels, bit of a mulligan. Keep hold on their plays. I suppose the issue with Dylan Brown we kind of touched about previously is I'm locked into Munster and Cody Walker, so I can't get someone like a Dylan Brown. But if you are a non-owner with a 4 years rolling average, you'd be looking pretty juicily at him going forward. So that kind of finishes us off for tonight. Let's just kick off with a final few questions. For those who are asking about Timmy and Sav's scores, they'll cover it on Tuesday's pod, which is tomorrow.
I'll give it to you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go for it.
Let's give him an insight. Both scored really well. Firstly, Jake scored 13-12. I expect to see him in the top 500 this week, if he's not already. Sabs scored 13-33, which you'll see green arrows for him. And then Timmy scored a 13-55. Both of those boys, Captain Cleary. So another good overall round for the 5 of us in the SuperCoach experience. And this is probably been the best season that we've all done. Like, not my best season, but not all of us have been going this well. There's always been 1 or 2 going good, and then the other 2 are real far behind. So very competitive year by all of us on the panel, which kind of helps us talking shit each week. So it kind of makes us look a little better.
It does. It does.
Footy fans like the rest of you. Yeah.
And let's hope we can all get top 1,000. It'd be absolutely fantastic. Obviously.
Oh, that'd be huge. I'd love that to happen. Even if I'm at the back there at 990, I couldn't care. That'd be an awesome effort for us boys.
Yeah, and I'm sure Timmy would sacrifice going back to back for us all to go top 1,000. So I can speak.
He would not. he would not. And honestly, I'm getting the same feelings from last year. I definitely think he can do it again. And he's a great SuperCoach player, man. He's very good.
Mate, absolutely genius. All right, let's kick off with a final couple of questions. So John Thomas says, thoughts on going Jackson Hastings to Olakau'atu or Tino? And I think it's Isaiah Tuss or Burbo to Will Kennedy. I'm sure you're not a fan of the Will Kennedy trade, but what about Hastings to Olakau'atu?
Look, I don't hate the Kennedy trade, but let's see what his break-even is going to be. I'd say it's still be pretty low. Tuss, hold on to him just in case something happens and he does come into that side. They're playing pretty well. Look, if Campbell Graham did get picked for Origin, you might see Tuss pop back up. So I would hold him just in case he gets a chance. But I don't mind. I don't mind the Olakau'atu. And if you can do Burbo to Kennedy, I don't mind. But just remember, if you're plugging a fullback spot, are you getting Paps and do you have a plan for him?
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. As an Appy owner, Bryce is asking about saying Appy is a sell. You being an Appy owner, are you discouraged at all by him? Do you think he's a sell? Do you agree with Bryce?
Look, I don't hate the trade. Like, I don't love the trade that I did, but I don't hate it because I managed to get the money to fund this Campbell. Like, I did Valea to Campbell Graham, and then I got Mulatalo. So with that trade, I shored up my centre wing, and I was happy doing that because I've got Cotter. So with Cotter returning this week, I'm not going to play Coruscant. My thing was to have him as an 18th man and a backup hooker, and you could play him here and there. There'll be games where he steps up, plays more minutes, does a few more things, but this game was all about Cleary and Luai for redemption after Origin. I wouldn't be selling him to anyone bar probably Harry Grant. If I decide I don't want to run home with Harry Grant, I could do a McInnes move instead. But yeah, personally for me, I think you'll hover around the price he is now, and you can look to sell him back to Harry Grant. I know you didn't do it, Maxi, because of trades. And look, I've only got 14 left myself, but I made sure one trade back one I did was Grant because, yeah, if you do a move and you can see that you're going to benefit from it, then go for it. And I feel like, yeah, my team definitely benefited from it.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing about you also, Mike, is you've got Rupert Cotto, you've got swung into the hooker position. So absolute worst case scenario, and you can't get Harry Grant back in. I know it's not a fantastic thing, but it's not like you're like me, who you have Brandon Smith or whatever. Like you've got someone who's going to score 60 to 70 most weeks. So you will get him back in, and I'm sure you saved that trade. But yeah, worst case scenario, you got Connor there to help you out. Final question of the night. And this is kind of a juicy one for our resident Panthers fan, Mikey. Thoughts on selling Taylor May or Isaac Tago to Brian To'o? Would you do it?
That's such a tough question. I could see a world where you do it, but at the same time, like I want to get rid of like one of May or Tago to get another number, but I don't think it's worth it. The Panthers have lost one game. They struggled last year in the bye round. They're doing really well at managing it, and look, I think they're going to be very hard to stop to take down the title again. Like they're going to be tough. And for the rest of the year, like they're playing the Warriors this week. Like, would you really not want to own May and Tago for that? To be honest, if you could get To'o and keep May and Tago, you could happily play all three. I don't know if I would do it, but you happily can. They all scored well this week. And I just can't sell Tago and May right now because of that left edge. If Tago sweeps a 10 or a 20 or either of them, then it might prompt you more to sell. But whatever money these guys lose, they're going to make it back with how well they're scoring. Like, yeah, Penrith's still going to play Melbourne again, Parramatta again, Sharks again. But these guys have all proved that they can score against a tougher team. So I can't do it at this stage. Could you, Maxi?
No, I couldn't.
Sell those two to get
No, I mean, I think if you want To'o, you bring in, you find someone else to bring in. I think you can have To'o, Tago and Taylor May in your centre wings. They're all keeper range. So I think that's the way you make it work. I don't think you get rid of any Penrith players. As you said, I think they're a tier above everyone else. And on any given week, they can all score at least 75 plus. So get them in and don't be wasting moves on a May or a Tago who are around that, on that. And as I think Timmy's commenting Panthers and Timmy go back to back.
It'd be Sabs. It'd be Sabs for sure. Panthers and Timmy's back to back. I like it.
Fantastic. I hope Manly get there, but I know we won't. Last question from Timmy. Is Isaiah Yeo, is he a sell?
Yeah, I think so. I think there'll be a bit more resting around the Origin time, and we've mentioned quite a few good second rowers that you could grab if you didn't have, or even to stock up for the buy round. As I said, Madison could be an option now. Then you've also got your Olokalatu or your McInnes and your Kolomatangi. So I personally would sell, even if you've got like a dual. I'd flick up a center wing like Talakai or someone to then grab one of these other center wings. So I definitely would.
Yep.
Don't think I think you can hold him, but I'd sell.
Yeah, and I mean I've got my own question for you, Mikey. You've mentioned that you're going to go hard on round 17. How many players are you targeting for that round 17 buy?
I think I'm at, like, by hard, I just mean I think a lot of the people that stacked up from the other one are going to go less for this one. I've got 9 right now, and that doesn't include Nico Hines. So if he does, I'm at 10. Got 14 trades, and I would like to aim for 14 if I can make it work. But yet again, I will do what I did for the last buy. I'll run 12 players if it means I have more trades and a better run for the run home. I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot just for one big score. I'm not going to do it. So, look, I do want to try and aim for 14 to 15 if I can make it work without destroying my team. But Yeah, right now I think I'm placed in an okay position to set it up. I know this sounds bad, but a few injuries to players that aren't playing that buy round would make it easier for me to get to that number. But yeah, we'll see how we go, because I'm starting to, like, you're looking at teams. I think a lot of people have final teams really early. Like, my team's looking so good with how it is now. So I guess we just need a couple of these cheapies to stick, and it'll be more realistic.
Yep. And I think you get that number of 14, 15, Mikey, and you're shooing for the top 1,000. Let's hope
anything with a 12 or higher, I think you've got to aim for, especially because this one might be a bit tougher because all these big plays are costing a little bit more, so you have to plan for them.
Yeah, and I'm only sitting around. I'm sitting around the 8 mark at the moment, so I've got some work to do with low trades. I might only get around the 13 mark. So I think you're a shoo-in for top 1,000. I think I might just scrape in if everything goes my way. But you never know what happens in SuperCoach, and that's the beauty of it. Which brings us back to to the end of a fantastic episode, an hour and 25 minutes. We've gone over time with Mikey. Thanks so much for jumping on the pod, Mikey, and best of luck for the upcoming round.
Yeah, you too, Maxi. Thanks guys for tuning in on a Monday, and you'll have the guys back tomorrow, hopefully, if everything goes to plan. I won't be on it as well. I'm away for work this week, but good luck this week, guys.
Beautiful. All right, take care, everyone.
Catch you later.